Hey guys, it's your weather girlie Shania, and welcome to my podcast Shania Beyond the Sky, where I explore and discover all things meteorology and earth science. Today is Weather Wednesday, and we are going to take a look at climate and the different types of climate. Right, so to start straight off, we have to definitely know what is climate refers to the long term patterns of weather, temperature, humidity, the wind, and precipitation in a particular region over a period of time, an extended period of time, usually about 30 years or more. Some people would think that weather and climate is the same, but it's actually not, because climate, keyword long term. So it's different from weather because weather describes the short term atmospheric conditions, while climate describes long term, and it's influenced by factors such as latitude, altitude, ocean currents, and distance from the sea. And it also includes factors of temperature, humidity, rainfall, weather, wind patterns, and seasonal variation. So, a note to make is that equatorial regions or places closest to the equator is hotter, and as you go outwards or further from the equator and closer to the poles, it gets colder. There are five different types of climate, and in the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, a German climate scientist called Vladimir Köppen, he researched and categorized these climates into five categories. So there is tropical climate, dry and arid climate, temperate climate, continental climate, and polar. These climates and the difference of the climates were based on the temperature, amount of precipitation, and times of year when the precipitation occurs. The categories were also heavily influenced by latitude, which is the imaginary lines that measure the Earth left to right, which is what I was speaking about before with the equator. So the centermost line of latitude on the globe is the equator, and going up and going down, the furthest you go from the equator, the colder it gets. So the first climate that we are going to talk about is tropical climate, and this is a climate that we are very familiar to as Trinidadians. I am from Trinidad, and this climate is warm weather, humid, and there are many different types of tropical climate, such as equatorial and tropical marine climate and tropical savanna grasslands. And these are the subcategories of the tropical climates, and we'll get into that later. But in tropical climate, the average temperature is between 25 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius year round, and rainfall range from 1,000 millimeters to 2,000 millimeters per year. And the second one is dry or arid, and this climate is so dry because the moisture just rapidly evaporates from the air, and there is very little precipitation. You can find this climate in deserts, the Sahara deserts, and in Middle Eastern countries, which is part of the Sahara as well, and in the outback of Australia. Temperate climate, they usually have four seasons, so we can see temperate climate in certain parts of America, and their summers are typically warm and humid with thunderstorms, and it has the general spring, summer, autumn, winter. And continental climate is warm to cool summers and very cool winters. In this zone, they can experience snowstorms, strong winds, and very cold temperatures, sometimes below negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. So, this is like Canada and places like that. So then we have polar. Polar climate is closer to the poles. This is extreme cold. So we have Yakutsk in Siberia, as examples of this, and Greenland and Antarctica. And these colds are very cold, and they never go higher than 50 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. The type of climate that I wanted to focus on today, since we are talking about climate and we are in the Caribbean, I'm based in the Caribbean. I wanted to talk about the specific climate that we have. And we have tropical climate, sun, sea, and sand. And it's very beautiful, but sometimes the sun can get too hot at times. And when rain fall, the rain won't fall too much. We have two seasons, wet season and dry season. Sometimes dry season feels like wet season, and sometimes wet seasons feels like dry season. And we all know that our hottest months are around March. So our summers, when we have summers, July, August vacation is hurricane season for us. And in America, where there are temperate climates and they have summer, their summer is hot weather. And our summer, I would say, is during, let's say, March, April, May, and then from June, July, and August, and the wet seasons comes around. It's just rain, 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 wet, wet, and then sometimes you might find like hot sun, but the weather is very bipolar around this time. And right now, as of the ending of February, beginning of March, the weather has been stagnant constantly. It's the weather every day is sunny, breezy conditions with hazy, and then the Saharan dust occasionally. So that's what it's like in the Caribbean. And these climates, as I said earlier, exist near the equator and close to the equator, on the equator. And something that I forgot to mention is that the equator is the hottest that it can get, and the reason it's so hot is because that line gets direct sunlight on the globe. And Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean experiences tropical marine climate, which is influenced by the amount of oceans and seas that we are surrounded by, which is very self-explanatory. Temperatures for this is usually around 20 to 35 degrees Celsius, which is 68 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And the annual temperature range is often small, and the wet season is hotter than the dry season, which is because of humidity. Humidity makes things warmer than they actually are. And you will really think, well, why is the dry season colder than the wet season? It's the humidity that really causes the wet season to be as hot as it is. And the annual rainfall is between 1,000 to 1,200 millimeters per year. And there is obviously more rainfall during the wet season because that's when we have our storms and stuff like that. And in dry season, we are in hot sun, and then there is a lot of Saharan dust, and all of these ties into the hotness. There are sometimes days we go without water, without rain, and it's sometimes bad. But the dry season is a good time to go to the beach and enjoy yourself, because when the rainy season hits, yes, you could go by the beach, but it's not always the safest option. Our wet season and dry season time frame. So the dry season is from January to May, and then wet season is from June to December. So half is dry and half is wet. The second type of climate that I'm going to talk about is tropical equatorial climate. And this is climate with the rainforests, that climate that is influenced by rainforests, the Amazon basin and Congo, Indonesia. These climates are very humid and very in forested areas, and it's hot, it's wet, and the mornings could be dry but misty, and there are late afternoon downpours with convectional storms, which are thunderstorms. convectional storms range from the place that they are. So this is when warm air rises, warm moisture rises to the sky and condenses, and then that activity creates storms, and usually they have some sort of energy like thunder, lightning, and heavy downpours and stuff like that. And this equatorial climate is found closest to the equator, about 10 to 15 degrees away, and there is no dry season. There's rain year round. There's a minimal diurnal range, which is the difference of temperatures between the day and the night. So the nights are very cold, but the day is hot, humid, and wet. And then we go on to tropical savanna grasslands. And the perfect example and the best example I have for you is look at the Lion King, and the scenery that you see there. That is exactly tropical savanna grasslands and tropical continental climate. There are open fields, scattered trees, and grass, and they are usually found in places like Africa, hence the Lion King I just mentioned there, and also in Australia as well. This climate is hot and dry with temperatures that don't drop below freezing. They receive about 30 to 50 inches of rainfall annually, which is recorded mostly in the wet season, and the dry season is very dry. They have distinctive wet and dry seasons, and sometimes the dry seasons are prolonged because of droughts and lack of water. It sometimes lasts a year. Today we talked about climate, and in simple words, climate is the long-term patterns of weather in a particular region, like the weather, temperature, humidity, wind, and precipitation. This is calculated over a long period of time, generally 30 years or so. And there are five categories of climates. There is tropical, temperate, arid and dry, polar, and continental. And there is three subcategories of tropical climate, which are tropical marine climate, tropical equatorial climate, and tropical continental climate, or tropical savanna grass. Well, that's a wrap for this podcast today. Stay tuned for next week's Weather Wednesday episode and look forward for more daily weather updates every single day. Follow my Instagram at Shania Beyond the Sky _ and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe so that you can be a part of this little community. Well, that's a wrap for this podcast today. Stay tuned for next week's Weather Wednesday episode and look forward for more daily weather updates every single day. Follow my Instagram at Shania Beyond the Sky _ and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe so that you can be a part of this little community.